It may be dull and dreary out there, but I'm going to try and spread a little sunshine in here with some lovely organ music and for you to listen to, and some bits and bobs about the organ as we go along. So hopefully it'll make for an entertaining afternoon. I'm going to start off with S.S. Wesley's wonderful choral song. Those of you who come on Sunday, I sometimes play it at the end of a service as a going out piece, but it's a glorious thing. There is a beautiful fugue that follows after it, but you probably don't want that because you won't get home for tea, and I can't play it yet. But do enjoy S.S. Wesley's choral song. So today it seemed like a good moment in the life of our organ here in Dedham to shine a light on this instrument and to showcase its character, its idiosyncrasies, and to say a little bit about how it works, how it's played, and our vision for its future. You'll see we've turned the console round so you can see the flight deck. Normally it's the other way around on a Sunday, you can't see what's going on, but Antony's kindly set up some technological wizardry so that you can see what my feet are supposed to be getting up to. That should be good. I should stress today that whilst it's billed as an organ recital, I am, in fact, what I call a liturgical organist. That is, I have a passion for the use of this instrument in worship and the use of it to facilitate people's worship, their praise and their prayers. So that's what this place stands for. But it doesn't mean we can't have a bit of fun too. So I'm going to continue with an amazing piece. I know a lot of you like it. It's called The Sortie, which means exit, by Sortie in E flat by the French composer Lefebvre-Wely. What a wonderful name, Louis Alfred Lefebvre-Wely. He was a musical prodigy who lived 1817 to 1869. He played for his first mass, sort of Eucharist service, at the age of 8 years old, and then stood in and succeeded his father, who had a major stroke. Alfred took over aged 10 from his father before he undertook his further studies later on. So the Lefebvre-Wely's Sortie in E flat. I'm going to call upon my page turner at this point. Imagine, if you will, a fairground organ. Mentioning fun, we have a birthday in the house. I think it's Maureen has a birthday today, so I thought we might indulge ourselves and sing happy birthday to Maureen. So the organ became the favoured instrument of church music, especially in the 18th and the first half of the 19th century, gradually replacing the notorious West End gallery bands. That's the West End of the church. And there used to be a gallery up there. In fact, there was one that went round the entire church at one point. Must have made very gloomy church with a gallery all the way around. But such bands were housed high up in the back gallery at the back of the church, as I said, and consisted of local folk with varying degrees of skill, training and musicianship, branding whichever instrument they had to hand. But when one considered that Dedham alone once had something like 8 or 9 public houses, the quality of the music was no doubt questionable, along with the sobriety of those performing, I guess. Moved by the Spirit may have taken on a new meaning. But gradually the organ was seemed a safer bet, played by one musician over which the vicar could maintain some control. The instrument I'm playing today, some of it dates from 1843. It has been moved several times in its life. It started out at the back in the gallery. It was moved down to floor level in 1868 at the back. And then in 1887 it was located and much enlarged and stood entirely in this space here with the player seated facing the window there. Unfortunately, you couldn't see any of the beautiful stained glass windows. They are completely obscured. And then they found rot in the floor underneath it, so it was decided to reduce it in size again and move it to its present position. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a moment. This next piece comes from a little suite of pieces and is known again as Sortie by the Canadian composer Denis Bédard, who was born in 1950. Well, we've heard some rousing music so far here today, but I think it's time to dim the lights and explore the sort of softer side of this fine instrument. I was recently asked what was the difference between a piano, a keyboard, and an organ, and I think it would be easier to say what's the same, which is namely one. They both involve a keyboard. Okay, in every other way they are different. Okay, this organ consists of 3 keyboards, 2 for your hands, and one operated by your feet, which you could see happening there. The organ music, sheet music, is normally printed on 3 lines of music, so that you're following 1 line for your right hand, 1 line for your left hand, and 1 for your feet. So the largest organ in the world, want to again guess where it is? America. In Philadelphia, it has 6 keyboards plus pedals, and it's housed in Macy's department store in Philadelphia, and it's played twice a day to entertain the shoppers. Which reminds me, I must ask the vicar for my job reference. Anyway, so I thought I'd give you a bit of a sort of duffer's guide to the organ. I should point out that you're looking at an enthusiastic organist who was really an oboist by training. I sort of rather fell into organ playing at about half a week's notice when I was put on a parish placement as part of my degree course, and I pointed out that I didn't play the organ, and they said, well, you do now. So there we are, and that's a long time ago now. But yeah, a lot of you don't know what goes on the other side Sunday by Sunday, so I thought I'd perhaps give you a bit of a quick look round it. So I'm just going to go to the console here. So you've got 2 keyboards. They're known as manuals, and the top one is known as the swell organ, or the swell division. And that's because the pipe work for this is all enclosed inside a wooden shed, I would guess you'd call it. So all the pipes are inside the shed, inside the swell box, as we call it, and the swell box has shutters on it which open and close, and you can see down here the organist uses their right foot to open and close the shutters using this slide pedal here. And so with some stops selected, I can take the volume down and open it back up again. The keyboard is on an organ is not in any way touch sensitive, so you can hit it as hard as you want. It's not going to make any more noise. So that's your part of your volume control there. So the shutters are open, you let some more sound out, you get a bit more volume. Close the shutters, it takes it down a bit. The bottom manual is known as the great organ. That one is open to the elements. It's not enclosed, so this present one is covered in dust, bat droppings, dead birds. You name it, it's all in there. But it is the bigger of the 2 sound areas. And the pedals are played by the feet, of course. Some of the stops they use on their own, and you can link them together from the other parts of the organ. These buttons, knobs, whatever you want to call them, on either side of the organ, they are all what are known as stops. And each stop carries its own sound. So, for example, if I pull this one out that says trumpet, you get a trumpet. If you pull out one that says vox angelica, you get an angelic voice. That's my favourite stop on this organ. I love that sound. And each of the stops has a number on it. This is where get the maths comes in, because each number corresponds to how many feet long the pipes are. So the default number is 8. An 8-foot stop gives you the sound of the note that you press. So if you press a middle C, the sound you hear is middle C. But if your stop says number 4 on it, you press middle C and you get the C higher up, 1 octave higher. If you press pull out a number 2, you press the same key again and you get one that's 2 octaves higher. And if you pull out a 16, you get one that's an octave lower. But you push one key and you can get four notes, which is quite clever, mixing it all up and that sort of thing. So you've got to sort of work out what your combinations are. I often say I get my combinations in a muddle, but I won't go there. No, I haven't been vandalising the organ this morning, but I thought you might like to see what an organ pipe looks like. Now, if you see the pipes on the front of the organ case there, those organ pipes, in fact, on the front, they have no sound at all. They're called facade pipes. They don't speak at all. But here I've got 3 little pipes to represent what an organ pipe can look like. This is a little tiny one, and what happens is when the organist presses the key, a little slider moves out of its position up there, and the wind that's blowing through the organ shoots up the center of the pipe and creates Thomas the Tank Engine sound. Anybody who's ever played with milk bottles of different things will tell you that the smaller the pipe, the higher the pitch. And some of them are made of metal. I'll give you a different sound altogether, a sort of a flute sound. And the organ that I was referring to in Macy's in Philadelphia, I think, has something like 28,000 pipes. I've roughly calculated that the organ here has somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 pipes. So it's still quite a thing to maintain. More on that in a minute. The organist, of course, needs to spend time to know all the different sounds on offer, so I keep finding new things in this pipe organ, even after 22 years here. But you're mixing and matching to create a sort of sound, a whole orchestra of sounds that you can have available. So the first piece I'm going to play in these quiet selections is a piece whose composer was believed to be the famous Venetian composer Tommaso Albinoni, 1671 to 1751, but actually research has shown that it is a fake, and it was written by a 20th century musicologist by the name of Remo Giazzotto. So for those of you who think that Albinoni's Adagio for strings is in G minor is Albinoni, it's not, it's Giazzotto. I'm going to allow me to dedicate this piece today to my long-suffering wife Gabby for all her support for maintaining me in this post as we go along, because she makes some very big sacrifices. The number of times I say, no, we're not going out today, darling, I've got to choose some hymns or practice, or no, we can't go to the kids' play or whatever. So Gabby, this is for you. I know you've got a favourite bit in it. Picture an orchestra with different sort of string sections and flutes and things, and hopefully you'll enjoy. So we have a whole orchestra at our disposal if we wish to have it. Another new favourite of mine in recent years is the beautiful and lush Prelude based on the tune called Eventide, the tune that is used for the hymn Abide With Me. A beautiful, beautiful tune, composed by Charles Hubert Parry. I think the music speaks for itself, but I was inspired to play it after hearing the late, great Carlo Curley play it on the magnificent organ at St Mary Redcliffe in Bristol. Just for the record, I'd like it at my funeral when it's time to point me to the skies. Well, many of you know that keeping this ancient instrument working has become increasingly difficult over recent years, and despite what you've heard today, it's actually well beyond its serviceable life. Part of the problem began when it was moved to its present position, when in what I'm sure was well-intentioned move to retain as much of the south aisle instrument, so much organ was crammed into that space that no one can move around up there. So cleaning, tuning and maintenance are virtually impossible, with devastating results over the years. We've been advised that repairs are not cost effective and that we should look to replace the old dear with another fine pipe organ which will fit comfortably into the space, and to refurbish and install it here with a long legacy for the future of the music in this community. If you'd like to know more, we've created a display at the back of the church with proposals for the solution, which our PCC, I'm pleased to say, are broadly supporting, and details of how you might like to get involved in raising the eye-watering £250,000, and a very important date for everyone's diaries, when we have a public meeting on Sunday the 26th of September at 10:45 in the morning to come and find out more, to ask questions and to get involved. It's your church, it's your organ, I only play it for now. Thank you to the organ group who've been on the journey to discover things about this, about the whole project. I have to say hats off to Margaret Kitson especially, who has worked so tirelessly to push this project forward, and who's at the back at church. I'm sure will be willing to answer questions if you've got them. But put the meeting in your diaries, and more importantly, come. We can't do it on our own, we need your support. To finish this session, before we have a cup of tea and a bun and things, I will be playing again afterward. To finish this one, a lovely prelude based on an evening hymn. You might know the hymn, Glory to Thee, My God, This Night. It is a lovely, lovely song, lovely hymn. My late father was organist in a church in the gritty northeast of England. Whilst his day job was in the steel industry, he'd agreed to help out on the organ when the organist walked out one Sunday morning after a disagreement with the vicar, and 34 years later he was still helping out on a Sunday morning. But I'm going to dedicate this rousing piece in his memory, with thanks for his example, inspiration, and the thanks for that church's 1,000-year celebration last year. It was founded in the year 1020. If you're ever visiting Norton-on-Tees, on Teesside, do visit. It's a beautiful church. This piece was a firm favourite of his and of my godfather Dennis, and then I propose we have a bit of an interval, as I say. Okay, so the prelude based on the evening hymn, Glory to Thee, My God, This Night. Thank you. I think we'll have a little interval now, get our breath back, some more delights from the classical repertoire in the second half. But go and grab a cup of tea and we'll see you shortly. Thank you.